it look like to turn adversity into opportunity and then use it to inspire millions of lives? I'm Jody Hope Grinwald, and this is the Today's the Day Changemakers podcast. Today's guest is Ryan Salin, founder and executive director of Greater Than the Game, a New Jersey-based 501c3 media nonprofit dedicated to sharing uplifting, inspirational stories from the world of sports and empowering youth to build mental strength and resilience. And in this episode, Ryan shares the mantras that shaped him: get up, keep pounding, and rented belief, and how living with cerebral palsy and dyslexia fueled his passion to tell stories that spark hope. We talk about consistency, going viral, the power of perspective, and why his mission to spread the good in sports has reached so many people worldwide. There's just so much interest in his work, and he is doing things that are truly incredible. Don't forget, subscribe to the Today's the Day Changemakers podcast on our YouTube channel or stream on all popular platforms. And don't forget to follow us also on Facebook and Instagram at Today is the Day Live It for updates, inspiration, and guest highlights. And if you or your organization are looking to deepen connections, strengthen client and customer relationships, unify executive and sales teams, or bring more alignment and purpose to nonprofit professionals, I'd love to partner with you. Through coaching, trainings, and collaborative strategy, I help teams reconnect to each other, their mission, and the people they serve. So let's work together to make meaningful connection a cornerstone of your culture. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Today's the Day Changemakers podcast. I'm your host, Jody Grinwald, and as I say every single episode, I interview the changemakers, the inspirers, and those who are disrupting the status quo in the best way possible. And I have Ryan Salin with me here today. Hi, Ryan.
Hi, Jody. Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
I am so excited, and I can't wait to share kind of the evolution of even our friendship and how we're even sitting here today. But before we get into that, because I know it's going to be such a great conversation, I just want to read a little bit about your bio and let everybody know who you are a little bit. I'll give them a little teaser here. You're the founder and executive director of Greater Than the Game, a New Jersey-based media nonprofit dedicated to sharing uplifting and inspirational stories from the world of sports. He launched the organization in May 2021, and that was obviously during the height of COVID and the pandemic was happening, recognizing a growing need for content that highlights the positive impact of sports on individuals and communities. And it's why I started this one in December of 2020, recognizing that perspective was lost. So I totally get why you did what you did. You're a two-time graduate of Rutgers University in New Brunswick, New Jersey, and you were born with cerebral palsy. Ryan wears leg braces to assist with balance and has dedicated himself to improving his coordination and overall physical strength. He also lives with dyslexia, which has shaped his approach to communication and storytelling, pushing him to find creative and authentic ways to connect with his audience. Ryan, there's so much that I want to talk to you about. Welcome again.
Oh, thank you. I'm super excited to get into it.
So right before we came on here, we talked about the fact that now you're on the other side of the Zoom screen and you're being interviewed as opposed to being the interviewer. How does that feel today?
It's really different. I'm not used to it at all. I'm used to having a plan and it's fun. It's exciting. It's something I need to get better at as a owner of a business. Like I need to get better at talking in the moment. So I'm excited to kind of get started. This was only the second podcast I've ever done as a guest.
Well, I am happy to hear that I'm at the first five. I'm within the first five. So that's awesome. And you have an incredible story to tell. And as we mentioned, your podcast, Greater Than the Game. Just before we get into this, where can people find it?
Right now we're on Spotify and we're also on greaterthanthegame.org. So we have a category that says Greater Than the Game podcast. Click on that and all our episodes are on there.
Awesome. So let's go back to young Ryan. Let's kind of start from the very beginning, as I do with a lot of my guests. Tell us about, yourself. You talked about in your bio, having cerebral palsy and dyslexia. Kind of walk us through what childhood was like for you.
So childhood was fun. I was blessed with parents that were very pragmatic in raising me. I had terrible balance as a kid, so I would fall often a lot. And my parents would always be like, get up, get up, get up. And everybody around me, whenever I would fall, would be like, would like freak out. My parents didn't even like wouldn't even react. I remember being in the grocery store one day and I think I fell and my I think my mom or my dad didn't even turn around. They were just like, "Hey, you're fine, get up." And this lady started yelling at my parents, like, "What are you doing? He just fell." And my dad's like, "He's fine. He like get up." So that kind of was a catalyst in my childhood. Got me into sports pretty early. I started with the Challenger program, where kids with handicaps are paired up with a buddy in like a high schooler, and they help them do all kinds of sports. And that's how I got started with baseball, and then I actually started playing Little League around fourth grade. Played that up until high school, and then I played lacrosse for a year in high school after managing the team my junior year. Got to play my senior year a little bit. And then that's how I got into CrossFit. So I started doing CrossFit right after high school. Well, we trained in the off season for with CrossFit, and then I started doing it a lot more when I got into college, and going to Brookdale and stuff. So that's kind of how my sporting career kind of took off. And then throughout that, I really saw a need of for kids. There's so many people that I've seen with handicaps or without handicaps that aren't successful not because they can't do it, because they don't believe they can or don't see other people dealing with the same issues they deal with overcoming.
Oh my goodness, absolutely. And so, it's a lot of imposter syndrome. I've been talking a lot about that on the podcast too. But for you, when you were in school, how were the children around you? Did they embrace you and help and support you? How was that whole experience for you?
So the majority of kids, I would say 99.9% of them were treated me like normal. Like a lot of my friends to this day forget that I have CP. Like I'll play hockey on Mondays. We call it Hockey Monday. We've been playing for like 10 years. And it's street hockey. None of us can skate. It's the funniest thing in the world to watch us just run around in our shoes. But I play goalie. And one of my friends was yelling at me because I didn't pick up a ball. Instead of picking it up, I passed it to him. He's like, "Don't pass it to me. The defense is right here. Like pick it up." I'm like, "When have you known me ever to bend down to like pick it up?" People forget that I have CP, which is an awesome thing. You know what I mean? There now in the past there was bullies, but like my parents say, and I say to people all the time, like there's going to be bullies. People are mean to everybody. You know what I mean? Whether it's for being handicapped or for your color of your shirt, or somebody's gonna have something to say. Um, and that's just the way of life. I always say we can't stop people from, we can't enforce niceness, but we can teach people how to deal with it. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of times that gets kind of lost that hey, how can we're not going to fix everybody, but we can teach people that are being targeted to kind of figure out ways to deal with it and turn it into a positive. So there were some kids that weren't always the nicest, but that, like I said, that happens to everybody.
Oh my gosh, it happened to me. So I totally, absolutely, it happens to everybody, my children included. First, there's always one, right? So
Yeah.
you have to, it teaches you resiliency as much as it's an awful experience in the moment. It does teach you resiliency and how to stay connected to yourself, which is not always the easiest thing.
And I would say like when we can deal with this stuff at a younger age, it helps us so much more in adulthood because if we're not
Mhm.
coddled when we're young, we know how to deal with these things. We know that the world's not going to always be nice. We know how to face that adversity when it comes to us.
It's interesting. So, you bring up a good point because you had first started this with talking about how your parents would go, get up, get up. How have you used that kind of in all of your life? It's an interesting lesson, especially because people were like, "What do you mean get up? Like he just fell."
Yeah, it's been I think it's been the main driving point to what I see greater than game being um a way for people to improve their mental strength. And I think that grit, that attitude is something that we all need. And it's not something that's always taught to people because I think experience teaches that the most. My dad actually played college football with a guy named Sam Mills. And Sam was a linebacker at Montclair University, and he was like the best player on the team. And he ended up over the course of a few seasons, he broke into the NFL. 5'9", really, really small. He became a five-time Pro Bowler and a Hall of Famer in the NFL. And when I was around 6 or 7, he ended up dying of intestinal cancer. But his whole, when he was fighting cancer, his whole mantra was keep pounding. And that's something that he had throughout, throughout his whole life, even when he was in college, keep pounding, keep going after it. And that was kind of going back to your question. That was also kind of a way for me as a kid, like struggling with stuff. Dad, I'm like, I'm not good at this. Like I'm losing in this sport. Like I'm struggling with this. Like, hey, keep pounding. Hey, just keep going. So that's something I really identified with early on. That just, hey, you got to just keep moving forward. And it's so easy to say when you're not in it. You know what I mean? It's so easy to say that as a mantra when you don't have to live it. But when the rubber hits the road, you're gonna realize that like, hey, there's an illusion of choice. A lot of times you don't have another choice. You have to just keep going.
Yeah, I'll be thinking about that now when I hit a stumbling block. Keep pounding. I like that, and and the get up. It's two really good. Those you need those mantras in our life, right? When the going gets tough, and I think there's not enough of them, or there's too much of them, but it is what you connect with the most. So, as you were getting older, you decided to go to college for what specifically?
Journalism. So I tried out for the baseball team like 3 times and didn't make it. So I realized that my dream of playing shortstop for the Yankees probably wasn't going to happen. But I thought, what could get me the closest to the game without having to actually be in the game?
Mm.
And so journalism, I'd always liked to write. My grandfather, he had he had like I think he had Parkinson's, and I remember when I was younger, he was kind of like not fully aware of what was going on. But I remember one time he said to me, "Hey, when you're out with your buddies, you should come home and write about it." And I was like 5, so I didn't really have buddies like he meant. You know what I mean? Like he's thinking of like adults, right? And so
Right.
that kind of got me interested in like writing. So I started writing when I was younger, and then I kind of molded that into sports journalism, and that's kind of how I got started.
So, when you were out with your buddies when you got older, did you write?
No, no, but he's the first person to kind of bring it up, like, hey, like you should write, because he was a writer, which I didn't know at the time. So that's
Oh,
kind of how I got into it.
I think those stories are so great. You don't even realize. See how like just something like that your grandfather planted the seed in your mind, kind of had this trajectory in your life. We don't realize, I really believe this, as we are walking through the day, the ripple effects, and I know it sounds so, people say the ripple effects all the time. The ripple effects and the seeds that we leave along the way of where we stop. And as we are going about our day, we have no idea what we say and how it impacts other people. And that's a great example of that. Is there anything else in your life where you can remember somebody said something that just had such an incredible impact on your life that it's still impacting it today?
And that's a great question. Um, I've had, let's see, um, hmm,
I know I just hit you with that one. It just
yeah,
these questions just come from to me, and the audience needs to know we do not pre-plan for
yeah,
these interviews. That's the fun part about them.
yeah, that is the fun part. Um, I think that I have, okay, so I had um a friend at a internship that when I was in grad school, and he left to go to a different job, and he handed everybody out cards, um and I had, and at the time, like I think I put in my backpack, I didn't really read it that day, and then like 3 weeks ago I found the card and I opened it up, and it said, hey, like, hey Ryan, like I just wanted to say it was great like working with you for the past couple months, and like I love what you're doing with Greater Than the Game. Keep writing. Like we need that. And
Mhm.
I didn't even know who it was from because I forgot who gave me the card, because he signed it with his name, but he didn't sign his last name. So I was like, who gave me? So I finally figured it out, like probably like a week ago, who sent it to me. But like I look at that all the time in the mornings. I'll like look at that, like, hey, keep,
Oh,
because just sometimes you need that, I call it rented belief. You need that belief from others. And then and just for that little spark, and that can push you when you're struggling.
I'm writing all these things down. I always do this when I have someone on with me. Rented belief. Tell me about that.
I think a lot of times it takes people around us to kind of believe. I know we're supposed to be the ones that believe first, and it's I think that's where it starts. But if you have people around you that can come to you when you're struggling and say like, "Hey, I believe in what you're doing," that just gives you all the more power because it's outside of yourself, right? You're like, "I get it, I believe in it," but do other people? And a lot of times you can just go on your own self belief. I know a lot of entrepreneurs talk about that, but it really helps if you have certain people or a few people that really trust what you're doing. It just gives you that more confidence. Like it's not just me that sees it; they see it too. When I first launched Great in the Game, I was aggravated one day, and because as an entrepreneur, it goes up and down. It's never a flat line, which is good. I had a sales manager when I was in college. It said when we're always looking for the flat line, the easy path. He said when you're in the hospital, you flat line, you're dead. He's like you want the up and down. Um,
Right.
but I wrote down 100 people who throughout my life who believed in me, and I hang that up in my room so like I can look at that and be like, hey, like these people believed in me. Um, because a lot of times I found that throughout my life I've been motivated to prove people wrong, and that's great fuel for like the moment. Like if I'm doing a workout, I need one more rep, you can pull from that cookie jar of people that like don't believe. But sooner or later, that's gonna eat you alive from the inside because you're never gonna get that moment where they're like, "Oh yeah, I was wrong. You were right." You know what I mean? But if you change that to people who believe in you, that's such a more sustainable fuel for the long term. Um, and I do a series called Wednesday Words of Wisdom, and that was actually one of the quotes we had last week. Brad Marchand said, "I don't play to prove people wrong. I play to prove the people who believed in me right." And that's kind of like the kind of mindset I've been trying to adopt the past few years.
You are wise beyond your years, my friend.
Oh,
Seriously, like
thank
I
you.
could sit and listen to you talk all day. Right. For those listeners, he said 100 people who believe in you. And if you don't have 100, if you have 20, if you have 15, I think there is something to be said. As much as we're all taught, you have to believe in yourself. And that's what's going to help you to launch. There is something, because we are humans who crave connection, that connection, when one person connects with your idea, your thought, validates it. We're still human beings. Doesn't mean we're weak because we need outside validation. It just and it doesn't mean you have to have outside validation. There is plenty of things that people may not have agreed with that I've done, but I've done them anyway because I felt strongly about it. It's those times in which we're in the middle. We're in that messy middle of what I call it, where we want to go right, but so much of our brain is telling us left is the better way, but yet the pull is to go right. And you were in the middle trying to figure out which way we're supposed to go. I always say, even if you have that one person,
Yeah.
put that person's name up on the wall. But I love that. And I am going to do that exercise. I don't know if I'm as popular as you with 100 people though, but we'll see when I put
I stretched. I pulled from like kindergarten teachers. Like I went way far back to get this.
I love it. Great exercise though. And rented belief. I might have to borrow that.
Yeah.
I like it. So I
Shout
might
out
have to
to
borrow that.
motivational speaker Inky Johnson. I think I stole that from him. He's an awesome speaker. Everybody should look him up. He's great. His name's Inky Johnson.
Inky Johnson. All
Yep.
right.
The book is coming. The book is coming. Today is the Day Live It will be published in late January 2026. Go to todayisthedayliveit.com to sign up and be the first to know when pre-orders are available. Live It is the Today's the Day Changemaker story. A story that began with one bold decision I made to spark a movement and create a platform for authentic connection and community. It showcases how a single choice can shift the trajectory of one life and ripple outward to transform the lives of many. Within these pages, you'll hear from 30 changemakers across the globe, from California to Uganda, sharing their voices, their defining shifts, and the impact they've made by choosing courage over fear, even when it seemed impossible. This isn't just a book. It's an invitation for you to believe in the power of one voice, your own. Stay tuned for the official author reveal coming soon, and don't forget to sign up at todayisthedayliveit.com so you don't miss your chance to pre-order. Because today is the day. Live It is more than a book. It's a movement.
So, since we're talking about inspiration, is there a book that you've read that you just has truly inspired you?
Yes. Other than the Bible, takes what it takes. I forget who it's by, but it was by Russell Wilson's mental strength coach. I can actually in a second I can go get it and bring it back. But it was all about the illusion of choice. And that was a powerful thing for me. He talked about, because I'm a sports guy, it was and obviously the guy works as a mental strength coach. And he talks about how Vince Carter, who played in like 4 different decades in the NBA, he had a very long career. Towards the end of his career, he would sleep in a hyperbaric chamber. He wouldn't dunk anymore. He was a prolific dunker early on in his career. He stopped dunking because he knew he couldn't get back on defense. He wouldn't eat fast food. He would be very specific about what he was doing with his body. And when people would ask him why, he'd be like, "That's what I have to do to be the player I want to be and to play this long." So I think a lot of times, like, people think they have choices to be great or not. If you want to be successful, these are the things you're going to have to do. There's no choice. There's no way around it. I think that illusion of choice was the biggest inspiration for me. Just jumping off with Greater Than the Game, because I think I read that in probably late 2020, so right before starting Greater Than the Game. Because I had seen that in my own life too.
So, speaking of Greater Than the Game, when did the thought to even start something like this start, and why?
So there's a couple stories. There's two stories, and I can talk about this forever. So stop me if I'm getting boring. But so the first idea of Greater Than the Game came in 2018 when I was a senior at Rutgers. And at the time I had a blog. I had a blog since high school called Fanatic Sport. And I just write about whatever I thought was cool, and like mostly baseball, mostly the Yankees. But once I got into college, I realized that you don't have to be like, it doesn't take much talent to report on just what the Yankees are doing. You know what I mean? I wanted to do something that was different, that could stand out. And a lot of my professors were telling me at the time to find a niche, because in their minds, they're like, if you find a niche, you grow a following, and then you can get hired by a company to write and do what you want to do for them. And my brain doesn't always work that way. Like yeah. I hate change. So I was like, I already built a following. Like, I don't want to like change. Like, people know the name. And by a following at the time, it was probably like 10 people. You know what I mean? It wasn't huge. But I was watching the Jimmy Valvano speech. Do you know who Jimmy Valvano is?
Sorry.
That's all right. He's a famous college basketball coach. Who his team was the lowest seed to ever make it to the national championship and win. Back in the late 80s, early 90s. And he ended up getting diagnosed with this really rare form of cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And he was very popular, did a bunch of speaking engagements all over the world. And every year they have this thing called the ESPYs, where it's like an award show for sports. And at the
Yes.
ESPYs, he did a speech, and I encourage everybody to watch it. where he talked about unveiling this thing called the Jimmy V Foundation, which is a organization where 100% of the donations go to cancer research. So he was talking about it while dying of cancer and how it was going to change, well, not save his life, but save the lives of millions of people after him. And during the speech, he talked about when I was a coach at Rutgers University. I was like, wait a minute, I go to Rutgers University. Why did I not know that Jim Valvano went to Rutgers? Why is that not everywhere? So when I got back to school, because this was during break, I asked every single person I knew, and it's an old sales trick I learned from doing selling Cutco kitchen knives. Who do you know that would know Jimmy V? And finally, I got in touch with my radio professor, who interviewed one of Jimmy V's teammates, who happened to be his roommate in college, who
Oh
happened
my
to
goodness.
be the the director of the Jimmy V Foundation, who happened to know him since he was 18. So I reached out to the contact was the guy's wife. His name is Bob Lloyd, and within an hour he responded and was like, "We got him on the." At the time, it was just an article, so I just wrote an article about Jim Valvano and what he was like as a college kid, and his claim to fame, his quote that everybody knows him by is "Don't give up, don't ever give up." So at the end of the interview, we were talking about like how I think one of the NBA players had recently given some shoes to servicemen and women that were at one of the games, and he was like, "Why is there's no ever coverage of just like the good stuff in sports, like the good inspiring stuff in sports?" And I was like, "That's what I'm gonna do for the rest of my life if I can." So that's kind of gave me the first idea to kind of do something different. And then when I was in that summer, I was learning how to surf um in Ocean City with my family, and my cousin had bet me that I couldn't get up on the board, and I'm crazy competitive, like it's almost insanely competitive sometimes, and so I was getting up on the board, and the I didn't know it at the time, but the kid behind me that was helping me with holding the board, like kicking and holding it so I could get up, but got up on the board, and this woman walked over to my mom and said, "Hey, does your son have um cerebral palsy?" And my mom was like, "Yep." And she's like, "Wow, my nephew has CP and he's 9 years old and he's mad at the world and he would never try something like that."
Mhm.
And I thought, wow, like he just doesn't see people with what he has doing what he can do. But so I wanted to give that person um the option, like oh, I can do that. Um and a lot of people just think we focus on like handicap stories because that's kind of where the idea started. But I saw how much we can touch people with all different types of adversities. Um, and then the final change was I did a half marathon in 2017, so that same year. And during the race, people were coming up to me and telling me how inspirational I was. And that's awesome. It's really nice. But in my head, it's not inspirational until you finish. Like just signing up to do something, like just doing it doesn't make. I'm not a very moral victory kind of person. So I was like, what if I showed people who I thought were actually inspiring, actually overcome way more than I ever could have even imagined? What impact would that have on people? So those are the three kind of stories that kind of kick-started Greater Than the Game.
Wow. I'm just sitting here, I'm just so blessed to know you. The more you talk, I'm like, oh my goodness, it's truly, you are incredible.
Thank
And the fact that you just do it so naturally, right? And what do you think to your core has kept you this motivated this entire time? Because that boy that's 9, that story is more known of those who are mad at the world for the things that they've been given, no matter what the abilities are.
Yeah,
Um, what has kept that motivation and that competitiveness and that thirst for life going?
I think it's twofold. I think it's perspective from my parents because whenever I would struggle growing up as a kid, like with like, oh, I can't do this, or always it in tag. Why am I always it in tag? Funny story. since I'm competitive, and my parents knew that from a very young age, I get it from both my parents. They would always say, "Ryan, let's race to the car," and it was the only way to get me to move quickly. You know what I mean? So I would be in my head beating my parents to all these places and all these races, and then I would challenge kids my own age to races, thinking I would destroy them because I'd just beat an adult in a race. Like I'm fast, and I'd be getting blown out in these races with my friends. Like why am I like, why am I not like winning? And so like like kind of coming to terms with having cerebral palsy. I forgot where I was going. Can you answer the question again?
Yeah, sure. The question was, is like, what is keeps you
Oh
so
yeah,
focused
yeah.
to just muddle through no matter what?
So yeah, a lot of times, so it's perspective. So it's my parents. They would always say whenever I would complain about like losing races and stuff, "Hey, it can always be worse." And being in challenger sports, I saw people that had way more difficult um, challenges than I did. So I knew how lucky I was. So I knew what I had wasn't the worst thing to have. So that kind of perspective kind of pushed me from a young kid. And I was talking to my dad about this a few months ago, and he was like, "We would tell you that when we didn't have any other answers. Because as a parent, you're not really there's no guidebook on anything, especially having a kid with cerebral palsy. There's no good answers to tell Dad, why am I losing at this? Why aren't I good at this? There's no good thing to tell somebody. So they'd be like, "Hey, be grateful you can do what you can do." And that is something I lose sight of every day. Um, and I have to keep reminding myself over and over again.
Mhm.
And the drive I think I just want to win. I want to be the best I can be. In everything I do, it's just like a natural. It's just been natural. It's just from the very beginning. I used to sleep with a wiffle ball bat when I was a baby. Instead of a toy. Just that's just who I've always been. And not it's not even my parents. It was like just a natural progression. Like I wouldn't even play with Matchbox cars when I was a kid because I couldn't win at that. I was like, what's the point? So kind of that's just innately God given, I think. And I think my relationship with the Lord, has really helped me through all the adversity too. Um, having like knowing that it's bigger than me and that I'm not on the earth just for me. I'm on the earth to reach other people and help other people. Um, like I think I think me having cerebral palsy, God's using it to reach other people. So a lot of people say to me
Mm.
like, would you not want to have CP and or like, would you want to have CP cured, your CP cured? And my answer is right now it's no because God's using me through great in the game and he's using me through like relationships and people. So I think that relationship with Jesus Christ has really been a staple in my later adulthood too.
And it's so important to have that connection is at the core of all that I do in all of my work, and that and connection to people, to something bigger than us, just really is supportive and helps us. As I said, as humans, we truly crave that. Um, Tell us about Greater Than the Game.
So we have three programs. Our first program is our website. So we find sports articles. It can be like recent news or it can be like recent stories, and we try to take a different perspective on it. So than the average sports organization. So we just did a article last week on Cedric Howard, who was he was the one of the late round draft picks in the NBA draft last week or 2 weeks ago, and he started at Division 3, uh, and that doesn't usually happen for a first round draft pick. So he started at Division 3, went to Division 2, was gonna go to Division 1, got hurt um his senior season, and then was drafted into the NBA. And our take on that was like everybody talked about like his journey, and that was like just the normal take of it. But I looked at it as like at every place he went to, he took full advantage of where he was. Um, and he used that to build skill. So he hit a few growth spurts, so he was really really lanky, and uncoordinated. So he took his time in Division 3 to get better. He took his time at Division 2 to get better. He understood what hard work like. He taught him how to work hard in a different way than he was used to. So we try to take different perspectives than other outlets, and pass those lessons on to other people, because you don't always need to experience the things firsthand to benefit from them.
100%.
So I think that's kind of what we do, and then we go to schools and we speak in schools about the interviews I've done with the different podcast guests, some lessons that I've learned from my own life and from them that I think really will help kids, not if they face adversity, but when they face adversity, because like we said before, it's going to hit everybody. It's just a matter of when. And then our last program is our documentaries and social media. So we do original documentaries, which is my favorite thing to do. And then our social media, just trying to be that spark of good on someone's news feed. 25% of Gen Z is 25% more likely to struggle with depression and hopelessness. And at Greater Than the Game, we're not going to fix depression, but I want to conquer that hopelessness. I want to give people hope that there's still good out there. No matter how bad your news feed is, we can be that little video of, oh, that good thing's happening, or oh, look at that fan giving back, and like anything just to bring that positive light to people, because they need it.
Absolutely, they do. Incredible work. Now we met, I'm trying to remember when. It was
2020.
It was 2020. I know it was pandemic time.
Yeah,
That
yeah, yeah.
I just didn't remember exactly 20 or 21. And I'm trying to remember who introduced us because I always like to give them credit. Was it
It was Lori
um
Landy.
it was Lori Landy from
Yeah.
oh my gosh, the name of
Special
her
special strides.
special I
Yep.
was Strides kept coming to me, but Special Strides, such a nice woman. And yes, she did. She said to me, I have someone who's young and he's just trying to start out with nonprofit and he's trying to get his podcast off the ground. Would you spend some time talking to him? And I was like, sure. And here we are 5 years later.
Yep.
And you're doing incredible, incredible work. And I'm so glad she introduced us. I really, truly am.
Me too.
I wanted to, you and I chatted when we reconnected after some time of not talking. You talked to me about the fact that, we both struggle with the followers and the numbers and all of those kinds of things, trying to get those to keep going and growing. But you have done a phenomenal job with that. And you also went viral with one of your videos. I think we talked about that as well. Tell us, because there's so many people listening that are like, all of us are looking at those numbers and trying to grow. What happened and how many, when we talk about you went viral, what does that mean?
So that's a great question. So if I heard my answer to this 3 years ago, I'd be very mad, because it's the answer everybody gives. But it's really been consistency. Last summer, I was probably in the worst spot, like mentally, with Greater Than the Game than I had been, because it was going on. I'd been doing something like Greater Than the Game for about 10 years, and I wasn't seeing the result that I wanted, right? And I remember being in my kitchen, and I said to God out loud, I said, God, if you want me to keep doing this, I'm gonna need some help. Like, I was mad. I was mad, right?
Mhm.
And about a week later, I posted a video that I didn't even think was that motivational or inspirational. I just posted it. And at the time, I had really stopped posting on Facebook because I wasn't seeing the result that I wanted to, which you should never do. And I posted it to Facebook, and I opened up Facebook like a day later, and it had 1 million views. And I was like, whoa. And then from then on, that kind of gave me the spark to keep posting. And to this day, I haven't posted today yet, but I haven't missed a day in over a year of posting on social media. So it's really been just consistency, being able to grow from that. So we had one video pop off, and then started to gain that following, and then been kind of nurturing it from there. Just been posting every day, figuring out what aligns with the audience. Early on, I was very focused on being like the motivational, like kind of, because that's the stuff I like. You know what I mean? That's the stuff that fires me up. But I discovered that a lot of our audience likes more of the wholesome, like, positive videos, which I love those too, just not as much as the motivational videos. So it's kind of learning what your audience likes as well, even if it's not what you always foresee. You know what I mean? Um, so that's been really, really big. Our first viral video came on TikTok in 2021, and that hit 1.1 million viewers. Um, that was just a series I did of inspirational post game interviews, and I was really proud of that one because I actually made that one. A lot of our other posts have been reposts because right now we don't have the staff to create all original
So,
content. So I've had a couple of videos over the past a year and a half that have gone over a million. I think our uh, biggest video reached 4.4 million people on Facebook, which is pretty cool. Um,
was that a repost or was
it,
that an
it was
original?
it was a repost, yeah. Um,
I never realized, and I'm sorry to stop you. I never realized like the reposts, and I don't do them enough myself. So I'm listening to you. I'm taking notes here. Um, that's incredible that the repost and you just put some wording in there, right? Is that what you do?
yep,
You add some of your own.
I just give credit to the original, or I try to find the original as best as possible. I'll give credit. This is from this platform, and then I'll and a lot of the videos I've done well on Facebook are videos I posted years ago. Um, that wasn't getting any eyeballs um because I didn't have the following. So now that I have a bigger following, these videos that I knew would do well because they've done well other platforms and other places have been doing a lot better.
Consistency is key, and I know I do not post every day, so that is amazing that you do. You know, we have the same staff size, which is us. So,
Mhm.
and you know, I'm sure you have, you know, you've got a board, right, and all of
Yep.
that kind of thing. So, are you a 501c3?
Yep.
You
hmm
are, right? That's what I thought that you had become, and that's amazing. And are you raising money for anything specific?
Right now it's just been general operating. Because we need that to keep putting out the content out there, and that's our main kind of source of what Greater Than Game does. So we've been raising money just for being able to go out and cover events and go do interviews and go do more elaborate documentaries. I didn't realize how much everything cost until I started to like try to put them on myself and the planning and the travel and all that kind of stuff. So right now it's just general operating to keep the what we do alive.
Yeah, I understand that completely. You've interviewed, do you know about how many people you've interviewed?
I've interviewed about I think over 30 people so far in the past 4 years. Yeah, so about 30
Right.
original ones.
And but these are some big people, and these are some very connected people that you've had the opportunity. Who would you say was the most influential?
My favorite interview so far has to be Commissioner Kevin Warren. At the time, he was the commissioner of the Big Ten. Right now, he's the president of the Chicago Bears. Um, I got in touch with him at Big Ten Media Days, and we connected through um, a mutual mentor that I have. Um, and I had 7 minutes with him for an interview, and it was a great 7 minutes. I ended up stretching it to nine. Um, and he just dropped so much wisdom on me
Mm.
at the time. Um, One of the biggest takeaways I've had, I'll just give you guys a background on his story. He was hit by a car at the age of 12 and was told he'd never play sports again. And he said to the doctor, he was like, "What's my best shot of playing sports again? Like I'm 12 years old, I can't go my whole life without playing." And he was in bad shape. He was eating out of a tube. He was bedridden for months. Like he was in bad shape. And the doctor said, "Hey, like start to swim. It's easy on the body, and you never know what can happen." So he swam every day after school. Used part of the money from the settlement he got to build a swimming pool in his backyard. And almost 7 years to the day, he was a Division I basketball player at UPenn. Got a national championship at UPenn as a freshman. Transferred to GCU, where he became a top five scorer in program history. And then graduated from there. Got a master's degree. Went to Notre Dame. Got a law degree. Ended up being COO of the Minnesota Vikings. He was the highest ranked African American on the business side of sports, and then he um, took over the Big Ten in 2020. So right as COVID hit. So my interview with him was all about how do you conquer something like COVID that no one's ever faced before, and how did your accident when you were a kid affect the way you view challenges and the way you're viewing this right now. So he dropped some great wisdom. One of the biggest things he said that I want to tell everybody is he said life is long, and that's not something we hear very often. He said you don't have to have everything figured out right now because it's going to change. It's going to be fluid. Um, and when I'm frustrated, I'll call one of my friends, and he always tells me life is long, and he doesn't know where it's from because I've told him that so many times. So now he's saying it back to me. And I'm like, you can't tell that to me. I've told that to you a million times. So we still quote that interview. It is probably one of my favorite ones.
Where can people find it? Because now they probably want to listen.
So that'll be on our website, greaterthanthegame.org. You can just type in the search bar Kevin Warren. It'll pop right up. Our interview with Eric LeGrand was another great one. We've done so many awesome ones. And there's so many different categories. We have a category for trailblazers. We have a category for mental health. We have a category for triumph mindset, like that mental strength, that fortitude kind of thing. So anything you or your kids or anybody that's coming to the site is dealing with, we want to try to have a spot where you can read, hey, this person's like me. If they can do it, I can do it.
I really love that. That's amazing. And what about your social media? Where can people find you?
So we're at Facebook at Greater Than the Game. Instagram, it's Greater Than the Game _. TikTok, it's just Greater Than the Game. And Twitter, it is Greater Than _TG.
How do you keep all this information in your mind? My goodness, you have been putting out stats from these sports people. It's incredible. You have such an incredible memory.
Oh, thank you. I'm an auditory learner, so if I hear it, I usually remember it pretty well.
So let's just touch on, because I think it's important. It was in your bio, dyslexia. When did you find out that you had dyslexia?
So I've never been formally diagnosed, I don't think. They just call me multiple learning disabled, that's just nonsense words to me. Like, I don't even know what that means. A lot of times I have in high school and in before college, I had an aide to help me with like writing and taking notes and stuff like that. I'll transpose numbers and mostly letters and stuff. So it's more like when I was taking spelling tests as a kid, they asked me how to spell the word orally, I would spell it right, but if I had to write it down, I'd spell it wrong. So it was like, of the things I have, it's probably the least thing that I worry about, but it was a challenge. So that's why finding out, my biggest advice to somebody listening that has a young kid, one of my teachers in 5th grade was like, we're gonna figure out how you learn, and once we figure out how you learn, it's gonna be a lot easier. So I figured out that I was an auditory learner, and I give that a lot of credit to my mom because she used to read to me as a kid, because reading was a struggle, so her reading to me was just a lot easier. So once I found out I was auditory, I knew how to win. Like, everything's competitive to me. Like even like grades. Like, I got in trouble in grad school because one of the we had a C in this class and it was a group project, and I was like, guys, we have to win. Like, this is unacceptable. And the girl was like, there's no winning in school. I'm like, you get an A, you win. You don't get an A, you lose. It's very cut and dry for me. So like, once I figured out how I learned, it was a lot easier to excel in school and in the workplace. I know what I need to do to kind of be successful.
It's interesting you say that, because just this morning I was thinking about exactly what we're talking about how when we're in the workplace and we have, a supervisor, when I supervised people, it's not one size fits all for everyone. Everyone learns differently. Everyone needs different things. And I, like you, reading comprehension was always very difficult for me. Like, for me to retain the information. Like, I know people who can quote movies, and I'm like, I can't quote a movie. You know what I mean? Except for maybe, oh my God, show me the money from Jerry Maguire. You know what I mean? Like that's
Yeah.
about as far as I go. So it's interesting. I don't have that ability like so many other people do. Um, but it's just when I hear you give all of these stats and all of these things and you have everything just so it just flows right out of you and your passion. That's the other thing, right? I feel like when you have a passion for something and it just I have this whole program when your why is greater than your how. Your why is so strong that the how does it seems to me, and tell me if I'm wrong, that the how doesn't really matter.
I I definitely agree with that. The how is something I've been trying to figure out for the past like couple of years, and I'm learning that this is gonna sound weird, but nobody knows how. Like like I keep going to these people like, how should I do this? How should I do that? And like everyone's just trying to figure it out. And I think that's some of the biggest takeaways of being an entrepreneur. You have to try things and just like go after it, and you're gonna learn from your mistakes. One of my biggest um like advice to myself, if I was listening to myself 5 years ago when we started talking, would be to make mistakes quickly. Um, because I would spend a lot of time trying to figure out if this was the right move, and then if I waited 2 months to make the move, made the move, and then had to fix it, it didn't work out right. I was just delaying what could have been. So if you make your mistakes quickly, don't go in with no information, but make decisions quickly and fix them quickly is what I would say.
Yes, because a lot of people, especially entrepreneurs, as I am one myself, is that your biggest fear is to make an error and and it's going to ruin everything. It's that
Yep.
everything's going to topple,
Hmm.
because everything's standing on your shoulders. So
Yeah.
you're afraid like one of those things falls, the whole thing crumbles. And it's so poignant to say that just do it. Just do it with the right information. Don't go into it, you know what I mean, haphazard. But I know there's so many times I'm waiting on, maybe I shouldn't post that. Maybe you know what I mean? Maybe I won't say it like that, and question yourself. Sometimes I'm thinking, why is it taking me 3 hours to put a post together? Because I'm doing 10 things at the same time. Why am I,
Yep. Yep.
So that's really interesting that you said that. Where is Ryan 5 years from now?
Uh,
Dream, wish, don't know how, but where would you like to be?
I want to be, well, we're going to be the leader of in the positive sports space. I think we already are, but we are going to have a hold on the media landscape. Uh, Up there with ESPN, up there with Barstool, up there with any other publication you want to name. That's where I see us going. Right now, I've been really focused on today. That's something because again, we always don't know the how, right? So if you focus daily on what you have to do, then that how is going to come eventually. Um, and that's a question that used to freak me out, uh, like when I first started, because I didn't know what was next. But I'm just trying to focus on the day to day, and eventually that 5 years from now is going to go quick, right? Uh, I can't believe it's already been 5 years that we've been in business. So 4 or 5 years. So like that's kind of where I see a greater than game going and moving.
I believe in you. I have no doubt, Ryan. I'll just be like, say I knew you when. Don't forget us little people when you're
I
have your own ESPN channel going on.
I
Um,
won't.
please don't, please don't. And you built a table and you're inviting people to it. And sometimes we sit at the tables where we don't feel good and they don't represent us. It's always a joy when you can create something and you invite people in and you give them a voice, isn't it?
It's awesome. Some of my favorite stories are ones where they're not famous people. They're just like everyday people because everybody can relate to that. You know what I mean?
I
And I
do.
think those are some of the most gratifying stories for me. Um, we had somebody reach out on Facebook um, earlier this year, and he was like, "Hey, you should check out this video. This kid scored for his sister. His sister has cancer." And I did some more digging with the guy, and it was his son and daughter. His daughter had the cancer, and he wanted to tell her story. So what had happened was, his son was going to a tournament, and the he just found out that his daughter's cancer relapsed. So they did a whole leukemia night for her and the family. And then the opposing team got involved. So they wore ribbons and they did things for her and raised money. And then during the game, his son scored. Like um and he was just so proud of that moment, and he reached out to us to tell that story. And to me, that's an ESPN level story, but he chose us. And I think
Mhm.
that's the beacon we can be for people of those stories you're not going to hear on these major networks. Um, and it's cool to get stories you can hear on major networks, but those stories that don't just like also can keep you going because it's one of those moments that like provides momentum. Like they believed in what we're doing, and they see what we're doing. You know what I mean?
I do. I know exactly what you mean because I just recently interviewed a four-star general for the United States and also a couple of celebrities, and I love them. They're incredible human beings who themselves share that they have imposter syndrome and can't believe they're sitting where they are. And then you have those who are making a difference in their corner of the world. And they're just, they don't have celebrity behind them, but every little thing that they can do to make a difference, just it's just incredible to see their continuous want to do good, and
Hmm.
they're taking steps to make that happen. And it may not mean that they have a million followers, but if they can help 10 people or 150 people or 100 million people, it's what drives them. So we all are everyday change makers. That's, every one of us is. It doesn't matter what your title is, as long as you have a good heart. I think that's
Yep.
what it comes down to. Thank you for sharing incredible stories. Is there anything else you want to share before we go?
Um, I would just say that message to audiences, you can do it. Uh, you can you can do it. That's basically what I would say.
I've got a lot. I've got get up, keep pounding, rented belief. I've got all this stuff written down on this paper that you gave me. So now these are Ryanisms that I have over here. And I appreciate you. And I hope that you'll come back and share an update with
Of
us as
course,
well.
I would love to. Thank you so much for having me on. I really had a blast.
Me too. And now you're part of the Changemaker community, and I love that. So thank you for
100%.
that. And one more time, Ryan, where can people find you?
Greaterthanthegame.org. Um, greater than the game underscore on Instagram, greater than the game on TikTok, and greater than underscore TG on X. And
And I
then we're
just,
also on YouTube too. Just greater than the game on YouTube.
perfect. And I wouldn't have ever thought 5 years ago we'd be sitting where we are today. So
Right?
wherever you're sitting, wherever anybody's sitting right now thinking it's not possible, we can share it is possible.
Yep, 100%.
Exactly. Thank you, Ryan,
Awesome. Thank you
Celine,
so
for
much.
for being part of this, all that you're doing, and keep going. Oh my goodness, I can't wait for another update to see who else you've interviewed and all the other good work you're doing. Thanks
Thank you
again.
so much.
So I'm going to say what I say at the end of every single podcast. Today is the day you cannot go back to yesterday, and you do not yet own tomorrow. So what small or large steps are you going to take today to get yourself closer to your goals? Thank you again to Ryan Celine for sharing his incredible journey and greater than the game and all he's doing through that platform. Have a great week, everyone. Bye, Ryan.
Bye.